two. This was not my fault. This was not my fault. I messed around with some audio stuff before the stream. It was not muted, but even though I had opened up OBS to check the sound previously, the proper input was not selected. Anyway, hopefully, fingers crossed, I believe that I have possibly solved some or all of the audio issues that I've been having with mic hiss. I'm going to turn the music down. Check. Hello. I should have a crisp, non-hiss audio right now. Can we confirm? Chat, can you confirm? Can you confirm a crisp, non-hiss audio? No hiss. We got no hiss. Got no hiss, baby. That mouth was made to suck Mike hiss. Like the Chili Peppers song. Remember that one? That one's for the old heads. I no hiss sounds good. I bought finally a powered USB hub into which I've connected my audio interface. Because I believe the issue that I was running into was the audio interface being powered by the PC. And now I've plugged the audio interface into a independently powered USB hub. Michelle, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. I've plugged it into a powered USB hub, so it's not relying on the PC for power, which I believe was the reason, because I think I have a power supply issue on my PC. This is very interesting stuff getting started here. I believe I have a power supply issue with my PC. My PC is like the power is old. It's kind of this like ship of Theseus PC. It's a ship of PC Theus. I'm really just firing with the puns today. It's a ship of PC Theus. Like the tower is old, and I've just slowly replaced all the parts over the years. Oh fuck! I did not change the goodbye thing either. Jesus.
To talk you through all this.
PC culture is out of control.
I was kind of in a rush. What was that just now? Just happened. Where are you? Where am I? Human person, thanks for the 27 months tier 1. Thank you, human person. So that's it. It's kind of like this ship of PC Theus. I've slowly replaced all the inner parts like over the years, so it's like an entirely different computer now than it once was. I think it's got a power supply issue which causes some issues with the mic. So I believe, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I believe that now that it's plugged into a independently powered USB port and then going into my PC should resolve that particular issue. Not to say that I won't have other issues. Not to say that there won't be other stuff. I'm sure there will. I believe, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I should have, at the very least, saying nothing of all the other issues that I could possibly run into, I should have, going forward, crystal clear audio once again. I went a little bit of a different route on today's sandwich. I kind of had a crazy notion when I was at the grocery store just before I logged on. That's why I was a little behind schedule. I made this tuna. It's like a tuna roll. Got some coleslaw, some pickle, some cheese, some tuna. The tuna is like a lemon dill mixture. Should be okay. 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 Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Good sandwich. Man, Dakadoon. I did predict that the Wolves were going to give the Nuggets trouble. I still don't think it's going to be an easy series. I think the Nuggets will probably win the next game. If they don't, they're obviously fucked. I really had an inclination to put some money on the Wolves, and I find it really unfortunate that I did not. I was like, I don't know. I still have not placed one sports bet in my life. I heard the NWO Wolfpack theme. I was so happy to hear that. What a great theme. I remember downloading that in like 1998 on my dad's PC. Don't do it. You're too neurodivergent. But maybe I'm just neurodivergent enough to be really good at it. What did you think about that? I didn't order the sandwich. No, I made the sandwich. I just bought the tuna and I bought everything and I assembled it myself. But now I'm wishing that I had, though, because I think probably, even though the Wolves looked good, they were still barely. I didn't look into like the odds or anything. I don't even really understand how that works. I think if I had put $50 on the Wolves to win this series, though, it probably would have. I don't know if there's a way to check. It's always a good idea to not gamble, and I'm not a gambler. I have never gambled before. I've gone to a casino and lost $10-15 or whatever, but it's never something that's been appealing to me. I don't want to become a big gambling guy. I really don't. I think I could afford to lose $50 every now and then, you know? Maybe once a month. The worst things that happen is I lose $50. That's unfortunate, but I think I could handle that. I think if I had put $50 on the Wolves to win this series, that would probably be headed towards a fairly nice payout right now. Kira, I respect your concern, and I share your concern. I have no interest in becoming a big gambling guy, zero interest in it. And I agree that it's a dangerous thing to get into. But I dismiss your concern at the same time. I'm pretty good, actually, at not falling into giving into addictive behavior when I recognize that it's becoming a problem for me. There's been a couple times in my life where I've engaged in certain vices that I know my brain was saying, keep doing this. This is great. And I said, no, I'm not going to keep doing it for that exact reason. Because I know that it's not a good idea to do. So I'm going to stop. Rob, I can stop anytime I want, Russo. As I'm saying the things, I'm realizing how cliche it all sounds. 6 months from now, I'm going to be Harvey Keitel in Bad Lieutenant, just shooting my car radio, unloading on my car stereo, listening to the game. I'm simply saying, though, that I should have put $50 on the Wolves. I would probably be in a pretty good shape right now to be getting not a huge, massive payout, but I think something. I had a strong inclination to bet on the Wolves, and I did not. And they look fantastic. Again, I don't know if they're going to handle the Nuggets as easily as they did last night, but they look very good. Composed, too. I think that's the coolest thing about Anthony Edwards. That's why everyone's freaking out about Anthony Edwards right now. He's 22 years old. You know, he's a kid. But he's so composed. This is the big high stakes moment. The pressure is on. All the media's watching. All the world's watching. That's when a lot of players get humbled, and then they have to go back and they have to get reps and become proven players in those situations. And he's playing like a veteran, and he's talking as well like a veteran as well. Like he's just completely unfazed by it. Completely unfazed by any of the pressure. He does have that dog in him. I mean, if they beat the Nuggets, they very well may win the championship. Like, they very well might. Their team is very good. That's a good sandwich. No, I haven't seen the Lisanne Algaïb memes about Ant. I don't see who can beat them. Well, that's the thing. They have a guy playing at like a superstar level. They've got a bunch of really good role players who defend. Like, they're not just good role players that are making shots, but they play defense. They've got like Karl Anthony Towns was never really like the guy. He was always never comfortable being like that, the kind of like alpha or like the main guy. But he's a really good number 2 though now. And now the kind of pressure is off him. And now he's like, he looks so comfortable and he looks really dominant. Rudy Gobert is one of the best defenders in the league. He wasn't even there last night and they still dominated them. I don't know. All of a sudden they're looking kind of like, and they have not lost still. They've still not lost in the playoffs. Like, that's crazy. I don't know. I don't know. They absolutely dominated them the last night. Yeah, and they got Jamal Murray throwing heat packs. He was like the belle of the ball, and now he's throwing heat packs. Two Canadian celebrities taking massive L's this week, as well as the entire Toronto Maple Leafs fan base. It's been a rough week or so. I was never big on gambling either, but before I went to the casino for the first time, my grandpa told me always to go with somebody and think of it no differently than a movie or something. Quit after $20 regardless of where you are at. I think that's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah. Like, I saw this interview with Charles Barkley where he said he lost, like, overall in his gambling career, lost like $20 million. Because he would go and he would be up like 700K and then he would keep going because he wanted to be up $1 million and then he would lose it all. And it's just like, Jesus Christ. That's not good. That's not healthy. Pelicans, we can get to the Macklemore thing shortly because I do want to talk about that. Let me just like finish my sandwich here and finish getting rolling here. I don't want to do too much chit chat because there's lots of stuff to talk about, but I need about another 15 before I'm ready to dive into today's discourse. Very good sandwich. Okay. You don't get an enormous city in the middle of the desert with gigantic hotel casinos and a sphere by not fixing games. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think there's always been an element of that in professional sports. I don't think I would go so far as to say it's all fake or it's all scripted or it's all fixed. Clearly, sometimes you do see like an agenda on display. A lot of the time, I think that has a lot to do with TV ratings as well, not necessarily like the Vegas over/under. You see how quickly they acted to ban Jonte Porter for life just because of how he damages the integrity of the game by participating in that. And all the stuff with Tim Donaghy, like I know it's a part of it, but it's also sports. There's also an element of randomness to it. There always is going to be. There's no way to like make certain outcomes happen, you know, because there's individuals that are involved that sometimes are able to change the outcome regardless of any kind of agenda that might be on display. The Knicks draft for Ewing, yeah, that's a conspiracy I totally believe in. The Sacramento Kings would like a word. Oh, I mean, like there's things you can point to, and I remember that series very well. Like, and they absolutely got robbed and should have gone to the finals that year and probably should have won a ring. But like, I also think that if there's any agenda that's on display there, it might have just as much to do with TV ratings and like appeal and major markets than gambling. You know? On that subject too, I was really disappointed with the end of the really good Knicks Pacers game yesterday. Great, it's so frustrating, you know. It was a really great game. I don't hugely like care who wins. I have two of my guys playing. I got OG on the Knicks and Pascal on the Pacers. It was really actually cool and surreal to see them like playing against each other and trading big baskets in a high stakes playoff game for other teams. Like, I'm just happy to watch that series. I think it's cool. I don't really have any skin in the game or any preference about who wins or loses, but just really frustrating when it's a playoff game. It's coming right down to the last 30 seconds. You know, one team's up one. Door's open right. Bug flying in. 1 minute left in the game. 30 seconds, whatever it is. One team's up one. The other team's got the ball. This is what, as a sports fan, as a basketball fan, this is what you want to see, right? Regardless of the outcome. You have one team with less than 30 seconds left. They got a chance to go ahead or not. You know, that's what you tune into the games to see. And then they call this like ticky-tack moving screen foul because Dante DiVincenzo totally flops, who had a great game, who had just made like a really clutch three on one end, and then he has this big acting performance and draws an offensive foul call, which then turns it into this like free throw contest. Like, that's not. No, the thing is, it's not a good call, Jay. Like, it's not even that it's not a foul. Like, his foot moved slightly. So if you look at the rule book, yeah, okay, it's a moving screen, but like, it's the last 30 seconds of a playoff game. This is why I think it's better that human beings should referee these games, because it's the last 30 seconds of a playoff game. You should not be calling bullshit little fouls. Like, let these guys play. If there's like some egregious call, okay. Well, like, that's not what fans don't tune in to see that, though. And it wasn't, again, his foot is moving slightly. Technically, if you look at the fucking
You
rule
can count
book,
on me. You're gonna have a
okay,
good old
it's yeah,
Rob
it's a
to talk
that's
you
why
through
they
all
reviewed
this.
it and they couldn't overturn the call. It's a moving screen. Jay, this is so stupid. That's so pedantic. It's the last 30 seconds of a playoff game. Just like, unless there's like a serious egregious foul, swallow the whistle and let's let the players decide the outcome of the game. You know? 90% of the time that's not going to be called. And it was just a flop by DiVincenzo, who sullied his own really good game. He played very well. He played very well, and then he has this big flop at the end of the game that fucks up the whole end of the game. That was frustrating, because it's like, that's what, as a basketball fan, that's what you want to see. Like, whether they win or lose, I don't care really who wins. But it's frustrating to see this like ticky-tack foul called in that situation. Like, I don't think on either ends you should call that foul. I'm not like a partisan Knicks hater or like a Pacers fan or anything like that. Was it a makeup call? Yeah, I think maybe there was a call on the other end that was similar, but you know, it's just, that's always the thing. It's like, if it's even, that's one thing, but it just felt kind of egregious. I think there was also a kind of phantom kickball that also went against the Pacers as well. Like, there's always going to be blown calls and whatever, but Jay taking the ref side. Jesus Christ. Well, why weren't the refs? His foot was moving slightly. Technically, in the rulebook 13B, it shows a moving screen. Like, come on. Come on. I don't think you should call a foul with 30 seconds left in a playoff game and like on a slightly shuffling screen. I don't think you should call that. It's like, it's 30 seconds left in a playoff game. Let the players decide the outcome of the game. And I agree with that, Jay. The carries are out of control. I would like them to call more of those and less bullshit shuffling foot screen offensive fouls. Or like I was talking about before, the thing where you get your defender up in the air and then launch your body into their body and fire up a shot. That should be a no call at the very least. It's a matter of time if you see refs rigging games for their bets. Like, we've already seen it. Like, it's already been proven to have happened. And that's the one thing too, is like, it's not, as much as I don't think these outcomes are totally scripted or predetermined, it's certainly not just Tim Donaghy that ever did that. Like, certainly. That's probably the tip of the iceberg, Tim Donaghy. His toe was moving inside his shoe. That's right. Like, Jesus Christ. Anyway, I thought that was frustrating because it was a really great game, and then it's just the whole last 30 seconds were like the refs like determining the outcome. The refs are like completely fucking up the outcome of the game. I stand with Fred VanVleet, actually. Fred VanVleet had one of the very best ref rants.
I mean, I don't mind. I'll take a fine. I don't really care. I thought, Ben Taylor was fucking terrible tonight. I thought that on most nights, a couple of the, out of the three, there's one or two that just fucked the game up, and it's been like that a couple games in a row. Denver was tough, obviously. You come out tonight, you're competing pretty hard. The third quarter, I get a bullshit tech, changes the whole dynamic of the game, changes the whole flow of the game. And, most of the refs are trying hard. I like a lot of the refs are trying hard. They're pretty fair. They communicate well. And then you got the other ones who just want to be dicks and just kind of fucks the game up. Nobody's coming to see that shit. They come to see the players. And I think we're losing a little bit of the fabric of what the NBA is and was. And it's been disappointing this season. You could look up most of my texts this year have been with Ben Taylor officiating. So at a certain point as a player, you feel it's personal. And it's never a good place to be. That's not why we lost tonight. We got outplayed. But it definitely makes it tougher to overcome.
Man, I love Fred. Miss Fred. Miss that guy. Anyway, I thought that was a little bit frustrating last night because it was a really great game. That was, and I don't think I have anything. I think I had something else for this subject or NBA playoffs talk. But I think I lost it. I'm pretty sure I lost it. Ant is winning the chip. I'm telling you. Like, well, that's the thing, Kijiji. I don't know if I'm quite ready to believe, but I'm certainly more convinced after last night than I was previously. And he had another thing as well. I think in game one, I believe it was in game one, he like made a tough inside move, made a layup, and like the way that they've cracked down on like taunting and that kind of stuff, and to a certain extent, I understand that. But Anthony Edwards made a nice move inside, made a tough layup, and then just looked at his defender like just gave him a little stare down for like a moment and got a technical foul for it. And this is when I turn into one of those like old man yelling at clouds as well, because it's just like, come on, like I understand you don't want them like being that demonstrative and like fucking doing crotch chops or whatever it is, even though he was doing that the other day and it was very funny. But like, you know, you got to have a little bit of that. It's like, it's absurd, you know? You should be able to look at someone when you score on them in a high stakes basketball game. Maybe like look at them for 1 second and not get like a penalty or a technical. Jay, you're on one today, Jay. I'll tell you that much. You're on one today. Good Lord. Anyway, I should get to like my actual serious discourse for the day. Plenty to talk about. Maz need to give Jay a technical. Yeah, it's not like it's just free throws on the other end, not kicked out, but it's a warning. It's just a warning sign. Unveiling my Destiny diss track. Jesus Christ, that guy. Excuse me. I do have a bit of like a sort of a sore throat issue today. I'm going to try to bravely fight through it. Anyway, what did I want to do? I think we should look at the Macklemore song. I think we should take a look at the Macklemore song. Oh God, Macklemore, is this 2012 again? Thanks, Joe, for the streak message. Here's the thing. Like, I never really have listened to Macklemore's music. I've never really been a big fan. Like, I just generally don't listen to a lot of rap music. Modern rap music anyways. I was like, Macklemore is kind of a joke. I think it really does, though, say something kind of important about the way we have this like professional artist class who, it's been 7 months of this nonstop Israeli criminality, and the number of like mainstream level musicians, actors, artists that have even commented on this is like very small. It's like almost infinitesimal. And that's the thing. I don't want to make it just a hip hop thing, because then you get into some, I think, troubling racial territory. I think overall music should have that, like in folk music, in rock music, in rap music, it should have a sort of social conscience, conscience. You know what I mean? I think the best hip hop has that kind of like social conscience to it. The best folk music. And I think it's really unfortunate that not a lot of artists in any genre have really spoken up about this. Certainly nowhere near to the extent that Macklemore has. One of my favorite rap songs actually ever is, or probably my favorite rap song ever actually, is Uncommon Valor by Jedi Mind Tricks, which is a song about the Vietnam War, which is incredible. But yeah, I think it's really unfortunate. I think it's really unfortunate that there's not been a lot of artists in any genre, or actors either, artists, who have really forcefully spoken up about this. And everyone's been kind of fixated on this like diss track war with Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Again, I don't really like listen to either of these two guys. I think Kendrick Lamar is really talented. I don't really listen to his music very much. But I think it really, seeing Macklemore come in while that's going on, and Macklemore to drop this completely unapologetic pro-Palestine track while there's this like ongoing beef with like Kendrick Lamar and Drake that everyone's focused on, is I don't know, I think it says a lot about the state of like where our like mainstream artistic contributors are. And I think it's really unfortunate that not more people have spoken out about this to that same forceful extent. It makes you want to Mackle more. All this time we've been telling him to Mackle less, and boy is there egg on our faces. So let's take a look at this clip. I don't even watch the whole thing, and so I don't even have a huge opinion on like the quality of the song. Like maybe we can discuss that, but like it's not really about even the quality of the song or like who's a better rapper or who's not. It's more about like, what is the purpose of art? What is the purpose of music? Whether you're talking about music, theater, filmmaking, writing, poetry, stand-up comedy, in my opinion, anyways, it should be able to speak truth to power. It should have a social conscience. Not always. Not always. Like, I don't think every single artist should always just focus on politics. But, like, there's a time when people that have huge, massive platforms, whether it's, like, Drake or Kendrick Lamar, whether it's Taylor Swift, whether it's Beyonce, anyone that has these big, massive platforms and ton of influence over millions of people, impressionable people, to just not say anything when this like horrifying ongoing crime is going on. I think that's really disgraceful, seriously. And that's what I mean. It's not just about rap. It's not just about any particular genre. I'm talking about a widespread failure amongst like popular artists in a lot of different fields and genres to completely fail over the last 7 months to meaningfully use their platforms or their influence to say the right thing. And like, this is where you see like Zionism, I think, feeds into a lot of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, because then you can start asking questions about the entertainment industry and the values and the ideology of the people that are running this industry. And remember, it's not about religion. I'm not talking about anyone's religion in the entertainment industry. I'm talking about their political ideology. And it seems like uniformly the people that run these industries support Zionism. They're fervent Zionists. And it seems like there's just no room as a result for artists to speak out because they can have serious career damage from this. And it's the same way as not supporting, it's speaking out about Vietnam or Iraq or whatever. When it comes to Israel, there's this sensitive issue, and it seems like people understand implicitly. And please let me know if you think I'm taking this too far or I'm going down this direction, because I'm not trying to scapegoat one group of people in terms of their religion, but it's a political philosophy, right? That's the difference. It's a political philosophy. And it seems like in the entertainment industry, there's really no room to go against that. But like, again, if you're a wealthy artist, if you have this huge platform, regardless of, there's a time to like stand up for what's right. And no one has done that, or very few people. So when we talk about this Macklemore song, it's not just about the song, but it's about the fact that like there's no one in the entertainment industry. Yeah, it's just class interests as well. Yeah, because they understand implicitly that like they speak out on certain things. They're going to sacrifice their own like earning potential. Yeah, that's exactly why Susan Sarandon is a hero. Or the young actress from Wednesday. Sorry, I can't recall her name. Who got fired from the Scream movie. That's what I mean. It's not just rap. It's not just the music industry. It's like our mainstream cultural centers. Melissa Barrera. And I hope I wasn't going too far with some of that dialogue or discourse. Because that gets into all kinds of stuff about like the Jews. Remember, the Jews control the government. The Jews control the media. The Jews control the entertainment industry. I don't believe that. I don't think the Jews control anything. The Jews are a group of people who believe in all kinds of a variety of different things. But people that are high up in these industries do support a very specific ideological project. And there's no real room amongst that class for people to dissent from that. I hope that's being nuanced enough. I know it's a touchy subject. Someone please feel free to tell me if you think I'm like off base here, if I'm going too far. I'm trying to talk about this with nuance, but I think we have to talk about it at the same time. It's like, it's intentionally difficult to talk about these things, and I think sometimes we just have to be able to like, let's discuss this. But that's my point. That's kind of my point, though. It's not just about Macklemore. It's not just about this song. It's about this overall, this complete inability, this complete failure for the vast majority of our like most mainstream artists in a lot of different fields, a lot of different industries, to meaningfully take a stance on this and to meaningfully criticize Israel more specifically. to support Palestinians. I think you might be slightly off base in suggesting that Israel is the only special case. Weren't the Dixie Chicks blacklisted for a while over their Iraq war stance? Yeah, absolutely. The Dixie Chicks are a good example. And where it's Israel, I think, is a especially touchy subject. But like we were saying before, it's about protecting their own class interests and about empire in general. And Israel is a big cog in the empire. But really, yeah, it's about in those moments when there's this kind of like wave of like consent building for certain like foreign policy or geopolitical or geostrategic situations, that when you step out of line, whether it's about Israel or whether it's just about U.S. militarism, you can have severe career consequences. Although I do remember, though, that I think there was more artists and more people who spoke out against Iraq than are speaking out against Israel over the last 6-7 months. I think there was a little bit more room for artists to be against Iraq than right now. Empire Files is a good episode on the relationship between Hollywood and the military. Well, that's what I mean too, because it's not just about it's not about the Jews controlling any industry, but it's also about like the military industrial complex, which is not run by the Jews. It's run by a wide variety of people of different beliefs and different religions. But a lot of infiltration between these like intelligence agencies and the military industrial complex and the entertainment industry as well. Yeah, they fired Bill Maher in the Iraq one. Bill Maher for like actually for one time in his life saying something that was like true and at a time that it was brave to do so. And it looks like he learned his lesson. Now he's out here like admonishing the college kids that are protesting this genocide. But yeah, a lot of evidence about the connection with the military industrial complex and the intelligence community and the mainstream entertainment industry. I saw a whole thread the other day, and this is a rabbit hole, right? This can be a kind of conspiratorial rabbit hole. But like, I saw a thread the other day about all the connections with like hip hop and like the national security establishment and the cops, and how many like federal informants, including people like Jay-Z, that are part of this industry. So that's what I mean. It's not even just about Zionism. I think that's an element of it. It's certainly not about any one religion, in case anyone is watching this and getting any ideas or wants to take me out of context for what I'm saying about this. It's not just about anyone's religion, but it's about the people high up in these industries supporting empire, having connections with the military industrial complex, the intelligence community, feds up and down the hip hop industry. I mean, look at all the Diddy stuff. Like, Diddy is like the hip hop Epstein. Like, that's what it's looking more increasingly like.
This is some guy, Rob Russo, some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
How much compromising information does P. Diddy have on people in the music industry? And what connections does he have to these intelligence agencies? Benny, hello. Benny, thank you for the raid. Welcome, Benny and Benny Raiders. We love it. You came on here right at quite an interesting time. I'm in some thorny territory here that I'm trying to talk about and get out of without getting canceled. So hopefully I'm doing okay. But thank you for the raid. I hope the Benny stream was good today. Thank you, Benny, for the raid. I really appreciate it. He went from leeching off the notorious B.I.G. to working for the notorious F.E.D. Entertainment firms are also not organic constructions where artists slowly rise up to be in charge. They're generally purchased by outside capital. Yeah. And have huge amounts of sway. I mean, look at the penetration between the CIA and the American film industry. And how much, like, even in the 70s, there was, like, room to criticize the CIA or criticize American militarism. And the way that, like, a lot of Hollywood films are, like, being made with full cooperation from the CIA and from the military-industrial complex. And look at like all the big action movies of the 80s. And how fucked up it is. How it's just purely, like, America propaganda, Western propaganda, empire propaganda. Top Gun 2 is a great example. Great example of Fourth Reich propaganda. So anyway, all kinds of shady connect with the entertainment industry. And that's what I mean. I want to continue making clear that I'm not talking about any one religion or anything like that, or suggesting that a certain religious group controls all these industries. I don't believe that. And I hope no one is, like, taking that away from anything that I'm saying right now, or anything that we're talking about right now. But I think it is deeply fucked up that our most popular artists with huge amounts of influence, you know, are completely silent during this, like, this grotesque extended 7-month crime. I think that's deeply fucked up. And that's why we're now talking about Macklemore. That's why we're talking about Macklemore, because he's, like, the only artist even approaching mainstream saturation or popularity that has meaningfully, forcefully spoken out about this. And not just like, oh, I want everyone to get along, whatever. Like, what? It's just boilerplate statements, so you leave me alone. And I really hope more artists start actually taking a fucking stance on this and meaningfully using their abilities and their platforms and fan bases and the influence that they have to speak up on this like central moral issue of our time. Yeah, artists, they're very big on free Tibet. They're less big on free Palestine. Like, why is that? They're very big on free Hong Kong, but they're not big on free Palestine. Why is that? Anyway, here's Macklemore. And for now, and in the future, we will not ever be asking him to mackle less. I don't think he should be mackling less. I think he should be mackling at the current level, or even an increased level of mackling. Bad song from Eminem. No. Yeah, that was. I actually hadn't listened to it. It actually is kind of a bop. And he's orange. You know, I think it's good. And the shot of Tupac, I think, is really interesting as well. That's something that I wanted to mention. That's what I wanted to mention as well. Like when we talk about this kind of like conspiracy and who gets to become a global superstar and who doesn't, I think there is a reason that Tupac was killed and P. Diddy becomes like a big, like, icon, CEO. Macklemore might be an exception, but I don't think it's some sort of conspiracy or some shit. I think Westerners are just uninformed and lack the knowledge to properly comment on shit that is an American and by extension American artists too. There's also social rewards for reiterating State Department talking points and social punishment for straying from that. You get less airplay, less deals. Yeah, but that is the conspiracy though, I think. Like when you create a situation where people understand intrinsically that if they speak out against whatever the empire is up to, that they're going to have material consequences, like, and you create that kind of a system and it's not spoken into words, you know, it's not no one is like sending you an email or like making sure like this is what you're going to say and this is what you're not going to say, but you've still created a system where people fundamentally understand on some level that they're materially tied to promoting certain narratives or not speaking out about certain things. And that's what I mean. It's like, I think all art should have a social conscience. Not always. Like, I think art can be an escape as well. I'm a musician. I'm a songwriter. I write a lot of songs that have no political content whatsoever. That's purely just pop. That's purely just like escapism. I get it. I don't think all art needs to be like, have this hit you over the head political message. But I think fundamentally art is supposed to have this kind of a social conscience. And especially when people have huge platforms. You have, whether it's Radiohead as well, Radiohead specifically. I love Radiohead. You know, I'm a fucking 40-year-old white guy. Yeah, I love Radiohead. Radiohead played a show in Israel years ago. And when they got all this criticism from like BDS supporters, they were like, oh, fuck off. And then this really like rude response. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. These artists would rather just like not piss anybody off and try and sell their music to whoever, to whatever side. And even Radiohead tries to have this like social conscience as well. Radiohead tries to write like political themed music, you know? But it's like they completely piss on all that when they then refuse to listen to Palestine activists when they're getting criticism over playing a show in Israel. Yeah, that's what I mean, Joe. I'm not trying to, like, I think we're in agreement here. Like, I just think if I wanted a song about Palestine, I'd go to a Palestinian artist like Dibor or Chab Jadid, not an American. I do get what you're saying about platforms being influential. That's a fair point. That's kind of what I mean. I don't think every single artist should be putting out songs about Palestine and whatever. If they want to, they can. Great. I think this is actually a pretty good song, but overall, it's using their platform and using their influence to speak up about a major horrifying crime of our lifetime. You know what I mean? Like now, it's now or never. Like you've got millions of people, you've got millions of fans and supporters. Say what you will, but those Radiohead blokes sure can't keep a kid asleep in a car. Listen, I love Radiohead. I do. But overall, they have dog shit politics when it comes to Israel-Palestine as well, just as most other artists do also. And that's why it's like kind of almost shocking when someone like Macklemore comes around and takes this kind of a stance, because it's like getting cold water tossed in your face. More artists should refuse to play in Israel. Why does Radiohead suck so bad on Palestine? Why? I have no idea why. I mean, it's because I think, they have this kind of like idea that like, oh, art can bring people together. We can go and play in Israel and play for Israelis, and we can go play for Palestinians, and music is universal or whatever. But like, they literally told Palestine supporters to fuck off years ago. This is not recently. This was like probably 10 years ago. Yeah, and Johnny Greenwood's wife is Israeli. That's ultimately what it comes down to. But yeah, so you don't need to be putting out songs about Israel-Palestine. But yeah, speaking out, using your platform, speaking out meaningfully and unapologetically, not this like mealy-mouthed, I support peace kind of thing, which a lot of people might try and do. And also refusing to play in Israel. Following artists should be following BDS, just like artists were a big part of culturally isolating the apartheid regime in the 80s in South Africa, which Paul Simon took a lot of criticism for because he went to South Africa to make Graceland, which is also, again, one of my favorite albums ever made, but really troubling on that level as well. Yeah, no, I think that's exactly where I stand, Old Dutch, when it comes to Radiohead. I don't really listen to a lot of their newer albums, though. You can call me Al Guy, that's right. Yeah. I mean, he went to South Africa at the height of apartheid and made that album with a lot of South African musicians, but he there was a cultural boycott at that time that Paul Simon didn't respect. And he went to South Africa to make that album. Amazing album, but some dog shit politics animating it. Well, again, I'm in some thorny territory talking about the entertainment industry and this kind of stuff. I hope everyone has been with me as I try to be nuanced while we talk about this. I think there are certain things that are a little bit tricky to talk about, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about them. Like, I think, like, let's get this all out here. Yeah, it reminds me of We Are the World. Exactly. That's when artists come together to have like a political message. We're going to go in and rescue people. We're going to go and rescue the poor Africans who without the enlightened Western wealthy artists are just lost without our support. I think we all hear you loud and clear. Focus on white voices like Macklemore when you need to enact change. That is not the point. That is not what I was trying to say. White male voices. Thank you for making that crucial connection. I think We Are the World did more harm for the image of Africa than it did good. For sure, it promotes this idea of like the third world as just being like naturally just impoverished. Why are they impoverished? Well, we don't know. It must just be something to do with like their society. There's just something wrong with it. They're just poor. They're just poor and starving. We have no idea why. If we just give them if we raise a bunch of money for Western NGOs to go in and like, feed some of these communities and build wells or whatever it is, we get to feel like we're the big heroes. We get this sense of like personal catharsis, which, as we've talked about before, when the poor of a rich country give their money to the rich people of a poor country, that's what ends up happening. Foreign aid. Before we move on, I just remind people to please subscribe to this show that you're watching currently. Other white men also need your support as well. So if you can, please subscribe. Trying to make sure that I hit those targets every single day. As you know, every day that I do this show, I must try to make this little number at the bottom of the screen go up. That's how I support myself. That's how I'm able to do this show each and every day, which some of you seem to like. Some of you seem to want to tune into. But the only way that I'm able to do this show each and every day is through the boundless, endless generosity of this wonderful community. So if possible, if you can, by slubbing, you can help save this poor white man stuck in Canada. Yes, that's right. Exactly. So if you can, please subscribe. I appreciate it a lot. We become friends when you subscribe. It's only $5. It's $5 to subscribe, or if it's free, if you have an Amazon Prime account, totally free of charge. You can also gift subs, bits, friend coin, whatever it is. Is it also coincidence that actors turn rappers have the worst music ever? I thought Childish Gambino kind of bucked that trend. He's had a pretty nice career. Although I saw there was the discourse around that "This Is America" song. Because I guess that came out like 6 years ago now or something like that. And I think that song is so mid. Like the video is cool, but like people were asking like it was this revolutionary, like artistic statement or whatever, but like I don't know, it's just kind of like a boring song with no real coherent message. A pretty cool video, but acting like it was some awe-inspiring revolutionary statement, I always thought was a little bit ridiculous. People were desperate for anything. I think that was a bad year. Remember when people thought the Trump years were going to be like good for artists? Remember that? Oh, it's going to be so good for like punk rock and all these like socially conscious artists. It was awful. Awful. Some of the worst pathetic attempts at artists tried to use that, have some kind of a political message. Just embarrassing. It peaked in Eminem's parking garage video. I mean, that I think is an iconic moment for all the wrong reasons. Like, it's very funny. I don't think it's intentionally funny, though. It's meant to be deadly serious, but it's unintentionally one of the fucking funniest things that's ever happened. Because that's how he gets his fucking rocks off, and he's orange. Speaking of Drake, Donald Glover is a culture vulture, but in a slightly different way. You watch his show Atlanta, and a lot of his surface level scraped from Twitter, etc. I never watched Atlanta. I had friends that really liked it. I really loved Community, so I really loved Donald Glover from Community, and some of his music I thought was pretty good. But I thought This Is America was like kind of just like an incoherent, kind of boring, not a great song, cool video, but not some kind of like revolutionary artistic statement like some people were making it out to be. Racism's the only thing he's Fantastic for. Anyway, 0 subs from that call to action. 0 subs from the call to action after a slow day yesterday. Just going to make one more time just to see if we can move on and get out of this and move on to talking about something more important. But please, if you can, subscribe and help me make this little number at the bottom of the screen go up. It's the only way that I can keep doing this. It's the only way that I can keep doing this show is if the little number at the bottom of the screen goes up. So if you can, please do subscribe and support the work that I do here on twitch.tv. I would certainly appreciate it a lot. and if you do, you're very handsome and cool as well.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Cowabo 12, one very handsome and cool dude right there.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Cowabo, I don't know why it does 2 alerts. It's not supposed to. It's only supposed to be 1. I don't really get what's going on with the alerts. Thank you, Cowabo. I appreciate it. Do you have any other takers before I move on and we start talking about some more important shit? Because I got another video that I wanted to take a look at after.
Good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Comrade Bushy, thanks very much for the gifted sub. I appreciate it. There's a lot of intercommunical conversations need to be had about a certain sect of black artists who do well for themselves making black art for largely white audiences but don't have a connection to the community itself. Yeah, I do think there is important conversations to be had about that. That's probably something that I'm personally less comfortable weighing in on. But I do think that's a really important subject, definitely. I've already been in enough thorny territory talking about Zionism and the entertainment industry today. I've been narrowly escaping cancellation like Neo in the Matrix, dodging all the bullets. Dodging all the cancellation attempts. The monkey's paw scenario here is all of us hearing that actors and musicians really think. Probably a lot more Kanye's and Mars out there than Macklemore's and Sarandon's. Well, that's a whole other angle to it as well, Perfect Speller. It's not just about artists protecting their class interests when they have these big platforms, but it's who gets to be an artist, you know? Because we don't have support for artists. So a lot of people that become mainstream actors or musicians or writers or screenwriters or directors, they're coming from a very specific class background already because that gives them the ability to practice their art. You know? Because if you're working class, you're busy at your fucking job and it's really hard to play in a band or write a screenplay and promote that or become an actor or become a musician. Like a lot of people that are getting to that point are in that place specifically because they have disposable income and they have family connections in the industries that they're part of. So that's a whole other part of it. I think you're right. There's not some conspiracy. There's not some conspiracy about, what you can and can't say or whatever, but it's ensuring that only a certain class of people are rise up to fill those roles in our culture. Don't worry, Rob, you've been canceled already for an irredeemable trait, Canadian, and very well deserved. Very well deserved. Absolutely. But that's a whole other aspect to it. Some working class people are able to become successful artists, but it's extremely difficult. And that's why I think there's someone like Jay-Z, I think, because I think, and maybe someone that knows more about Jay-Z's career could correct me on this. I think a lot of his backstory about coming from the streets and being a drug dealer and stuff and rising up to that CEO level, a lot of that is a creation. Is it not? I'm not saying it's entirely a fabrication, but didn't he take elements of friends of his and people that he knew and incorporate their stories into his whole mythology? And Drake is a good example of that, by the way, as well. Drake comes from an extremely wealthy family. So I think that's a whole other aspect of it as well. People come from a certain class and they're allowed to become artists in the first place. Yes, Drake was on Degrassi. Yeah. And then he's like, he does the same thing. Started from the bottom, now we're here. But he came from an extremely wealthy suburban family, and was a child actor. He doesn't come from some like working class background. Anyway, here's the next thing that I wanted to get to. We can put a pin in this like entertainment industry talk. Hopefully my life won't be ruined from talking about some of this stuff. I don't think it will. I think people are intelligent enough in this community to understand what I'm talking about. Sometimes I worry about getting taken out of context.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Envy Adams. Envy.
You can count on me.
Why is it doing so many alerts?
To talk you through all this.
What's with the fucking alerts?
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Envy Adams, thank you very much for the 5 gifted subs. Really, really appreciate it.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do to fix these alerts. Count on me.
You can count on me. You're going to have
good old Rob to talk you through all this. And now it's going to do the 5.
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
Why? Why is it like that? I didn't change anything. Why? Anyway, thank you, Envy Adams. I appreciate it. Wes dodges a sub. I didn't get a prompt to send a message. Thank you for all that you do. We're expecting our first child in the fall. Trying to get my donations in early. Envy. Congrats. That's wonderful news. I'm really happy to hear that. Really great stuff. And I really, really appreciate it. Very happy for you. Okay, so I wanted to see if we could have a little debate. Well, not a debate, because my stance is on debating on this program, but a little discussion about this question. This is exactly, Old Dutch, you know me better than I know myself. This is exactly what I wanted to look at next. Because I think this Trudeau statement that he gave yesterday was really revealing, and it asks an important question, which is whether or not it's possible to be a liberal Zionist. Oh, and Old Dutch, actually, I might not even be, let's maybe get to that next. I think I have a different statement queued up. Maybe there's something from today that I haven't seen, but this is what I wanted to take a look at. Sija outlines it, but let's look at the clip. Here's Trudeau, and this was part of the Holocaust Memorial Day. Old Dutch, maybe DM me the clip that you're referring to. But okay, here's this Trudeau statement, and I want to talk about this. Because when we're talking about the entertainment industry as well, I think for a long time, this has been a somewhat sustainable position. People that can support Israel, but they're not conservatives, They have these good progressive social values, but they might believe in social justice or feminism or LGBTQ rights or support a number of like progressive values or progressive causes, and they support Israel. I think for a while you could kind of like claim this kind of ideology. And I think one thing that we've seen over the last 7 months is people that are really trying to cling on to this idea, and it's becoming increasingly difficult and I would say impossible to do so. It's no longer really, like, no one is really like accepting this anymore. If you support Israel and you see what Israel's doing right now, people are like, what the fuck is that? That's awful. How can you ever support that? And people are like, that's why you have people like lashing out. They're like lashing out because they're like, well, how dare people are criticizing me? People like Michael Rappaport, who is a big like anti-Trump guy, and they're so used to being able to have this position of having these like liberal or progressive values while also supporting Israel. And now the people are like criticizing them for like being like, you support genocide, you support like the mass murder of little kids, and it's breaking their fucking brains. Here's this statement. I think it's very interesting.
Let me be clear. In a country like Canada, it should be, and it must be, safe to declare oneself a Zionist, Jewish or not. Zionism is not a dirty word or something anyone should be targeted for agreeing with. It is the belief, at its simplest, that Jewish people, like all peoples, have the right to determine their own future.
Is that what it means?
Shortly after the Holocaust, Israel was established as a safe haven for Jewish people, a place to live in security and with dignity, a place to build a future without fear. Threatening, harassing, and excluding Canadians because of their faith, their identity, or because they support the Jewish people's right to self-determination in their ancestral homeland is absolutely unacceptable. You can be a Zionist and strongly support the creation of a Palestinian state living in peace and security alongside Israel, a view I know is shared by many in the Jewish community and across Canada. It's my belief, too.
Yeah, we know,
Urgent
sir.
work is needed now more than ever to keep that vision alive, of a two-state solution, of a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace. Anti-Semitism in every form, whether it's on the internet or in certain chants we've been hearing, is unacceptable. We all know that anti-Semitism wasn't new 80 years ago, and it didn't stop in 1945. And as my friend Erwin Kotler taught me, anti-Semitism is the canary in the coal mine of global hatred. What starts with Jews never ends with Jews.
Okay, so a couple of things here. Number one, like we were talking about, this was part of the Holocaust Memorial Day stuff. And so, I mean, we see that essential part of the kind of Zionist ideology, making that link. That's Israel exists because of the Holocaust and because of what happened, the horrible traumas and horrible disgusting atrocities that Jewish people experienced during the Holocaust, and that's why Israel was created, to like protect people, to help people. I mean, this is like a central core tenet of like the Zionist pro-Israel ideology. And I think one of the most sickening things about Israel to me is the way that it takes this legacy of Jewish pain and the pogroms, the Holocaust, the discrimination, like all the very real historical ways that Jews were mistreated and dehumanized and exterminated throughout history. And they take all that very legitimate history. And this is where people go way off base into these like fascist or Nazi territories where they start questioning the Holocaust and stuff and like that. And obviously that's a fucking insane and stupid thing to do. Because what's really disgusting about Israel is the way they take that, all that legitimate history, and they weaponize it to justify this state that they themselves are now acting like fascists. That they themselves are acting like Nazis. Like I said, I think that's an absolute disgrace to the heroes, for example, that like fought in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. You know? That they take that sacrifice and they take the real pain and the real trauma and they use that to justify committing genocide themselves. I think there's nothing more grotesque than that. And there's nothing that disgraces the memory of the victims of the Holocaust more than that. That's number one. But also number two is what he said here. In a country like Canada, this is what he said. In a country like Canada, it should be and it must be safe to declare oneself a Zionist, Jewish or not. Zionism is not a dirty word or something anyone should be targeted for agreeing with. Here's the tricky part. It is the belief at its simplest that Jewish people, like all peoples, have a right to determine their own future. That is not what Zionism is. Like, yeah, when you make up this fake Fantasyland Disney version of Israel and Zionism, and you say that's all it is. It's just a ideal. It's a belief that Jewish people have the right to determine their own future. That's not what it is. No, it is not. And like, I understand that maybe in the past people might have been swayed by this kind of rhetoric. I think for my entire adult life, this has been pretty much like what the accepted version of like Israel is or Zionism is. And this is what I have come to realize, and now what a whole generation have come to realize, that Zionism is not just this innocent, wholesome method for protecting Jewish people and allowing Jewish people to determine their own future. There is no Israel without the exploitation and the ethnic cleansing and the genocide of Palestinians. It's completely inseparable. You can make it's if you make up this fantasy version of Israel that doesn't exist, yeah, then it doesn't sound so bad. And you say at its core, this is all it is. But no, it's not. We clearly see that now. That's not what it is. It's not just about believing that the Jewish people have a right to determine their own future. No, it's not. Like that's just a straight up lie that no one believes anymore. Yeah, just justifying Lebensraum for Israel, exactly. And then there's this whole this next part. You can be a Zionist and strongly support the creation of a Palestinian state living in peace and security alongside Israel. A view I know is shared by many in the Jewish community and across Canada. It is my belief too. I'm sorry, but no, you cannot. No, you can't. Because Israel, the country that you're currently supporting, has made that possibility, has made that idea of a Palestinian state living in peace and security alongside Israel, they have made that impossible, quite deliberately. They've deliberately made that completely impossible. That's what this decades of building settlements on the land where this hypothetical Palestinian state is supposed to exist. That's the whole point of why they've built those settlements. Listen to what people in the leadership of Israel say about this possibility of a Palestinian state. They don't want it. They want one state, Israel, from the river to the sea. And as long as that state exists as this Jewish supremacist ethno-state, it's going to rely on ethnic cleansing and exploitation and dehumanization and genocide of Palestinians. So he's just making it sound like he's trying to still make it sound like this benign, progressive idea that's about protecting people, that's about promoting Jewish safety, and it's about promoting Jewish self-determination. And you can be a Zionist and you can support the creation of a separate state. But no, this is bullshit. No one believes this anymore. This is dead. This whole idea is dead. I have some sympathy for people that maybe have been swayed by this over the years. I'm sure I have friends that have been swayed by this idea, but it's gone now. You can't have this anymore. This idea, oh, that's all Israel is. It's just about promoting Jewish self-determination. No, it's not. There is no Israel without the genocide, without the exploitation, without the ethnic cleansing, without the apartheid. It's not possible. And no, the creation of a Palestinian state is not possible. And all you need to do to disprove that is to speak to the average Israeli about that possibility and see what they have to say about it. They're not interested in having a Palestinian state that lives in peace and security alongside Israel. I'm sorry, that's gone. That possibility has been dead for literally decades now. I hate Trudeau 1,000 times more than a rural Albertan with truck nuts, Confederate flags, and obsession with fuck Trudeau flags and stickers. Well, the amazing thing is that they all think he's a Marxist. That's how completely idiotic and brain dead a lot of people, like our entire political culture is in this goddamn country. But this is the thing that this is the kind of rhetoric, the progressive rhetoric around Israel that has been very effective over the years to obscure what's happening. But this does not work anymore. No one believes this anymore. That's why they're panicking. That's why people in our ruling class, no matter what their background is or what their religion is, that's why they're all fucking panicking right now, because they recognize that no one believes this bullshit anymore. No one believes this. Certainly not anyone in this upcoming generation. Or maybe some people, some sickos, but you look at the extent of the protests that we've seen on the street and on college campuses over the last 7 months. They've lost this entire next generation. This rhetoric does not convince anyone anymore. It does not. No one believes it. And I really wanted to take a moment to talk about this and watch this clip and break this down. Because it's amazing. You see this kind of the rhetorical sort of strategies that they use to whitewash this or diminish the reality of what Zionism actually is. And they promote this fantasy version. And yeah, if you invent this fantasy version that's completely divorced from any reality or history, then it doesn't sound so bad. But this is the problem, is that now everyone around the world is seeing the actual reality, not this fake Fantasyland Disney version of reality, but people see the actual real reality of what Israel does and what Zionism is about. And that's why this kind of rhetoric is no longer convincing anyone, or convincing an ever diminishing number of people. How can you talk about, you look at the mass murder, 40,000 dead, 15,000 children dead, and say it's just the belief at its simplest that Jewish people, like all peoples, have a right to determine their own future. It's completely divorced from reality. Didn't a Zionist gang sink a ship full of Jewish refugees? Haven't prominent Zionists blamed victims of the Holocaust for their own oppression? Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you're referring to with that first thing, but yeah, I think you just listen to the way Israelis talk about, they simultaneously weaponize the Holocaust to justify their own existence and their own violence and their own criminality. At the same time, they talk about Jewish victims of the Holocaust as if they're weak and we're strong. This is what I don't understand, for all the people that have called me an anti-Semite because of what I've had to say over the last 7 months. But it's the way Israelis talk about Holocaust victims, I think it's a disgrace. The way that they, like I said, the way that they take the Holocaust and the genuine pain and trauma of that and use that to justify their own criminality and their own fascistic behavior. I think nothing more disgraceful than that. There's nothing that disgraces that legacy more than that. And Jews have been central figures of every progressive movement of social progress, social justice, socialism, Marxism, and the promotion of it. Anti-apartheid, the anti-apartheid movement. As much as Israel was deeply linked with the apartheid government, you had Jewish activists in South Africa and around the world that were leading the anti-apartheid fight. And like, that's the legacy. That's the Jewish legacy that I am proud to uphold. You know, regardless of what my background is, what my religion is. That's something that's inspiring and beautiful. And that's something that Israel disgraces. Israel's continued existence, it disgraces that beautiful legacy and that beautiful tradition. And it still is, and we can point to all the Jewish people that are very bravely protesting and supporting Palestine right now. It still does not. It's still a part of that legacy, of course. But yeah, I think this is fundamentally it, Joe. Zionism and a Palestinian state are mutually exclusive ideas. Like, maybe at one point this might have been plausible, but that was a long time ago. This idea that, like, oh, it's just a belief in Jewish people's ability and their right to determine their own future. No, it isn't. There is no Israel without exploitation, apartheid, ethnic cleansing. It's completely inseparable. For a Jewish ethno-state to exist in this part of the world, that's the only way that will ever happen. That's the only way it will ever exist.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
3,000 years of beautiful tradition, from Moses to Sandy Koufax. You're goddamn right, I'm living in the past.
You're not even fucking Jewish, Walter. You're Polish Catholic. What? Thank you so much, Lodane, for the 42 months of Tier 1 for everything, Lodane. Thank you. Give up your library card? You know, Walter, even though Walter was a Zionist, he quotes Herzl. You know, if you will it, dude, there is no dream. I would like to think that he would refer to Hamas as a worthy fucking adversary, at the very least. But I think it's important to speak out on that, considering the ways that like this effort has been made to link Zionism and Judaism, to link Israel and Judaism. I just think that's something that has to be rejected. And this idea that criticizing Zionism is fundamentally criticizing Jews or insisting that Jewish people don't have a right to determine their own future is fucking nonsense. It's bullshit, and we must reject that.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Ethno-states are bad, actually.
Sir Brain Damage, thanks for 26 months Tier 1. I agree. This is the colonist mindset. Let's just do more. Let's just put everyone in their own little ethno-state. And then we're going to have world peace. Let's just partition everything. Ethnically cleanse everyone. And we can all be in our little section. That's how things are going to be better. Then we're never ever going to have any conflict. Like, when are we going to let this go? When have things ever gone wrong? Kurdistan this year, Queen. Uyghurstan. That speech sounds like a prelude to legislation. Well, it does take on a kind of sinister context, if you imagine that. And we know that there's a law passed in the House that's enshrining this viewpoint into law, and like leading to a situation where there might actually genuinely be criminal liabilities for making the kind of statements that I have made today and every other day for the last 7 months on this program. and enshrining criticism of Israel or stating basic facts about what Israel is, turning it into some form of like protected speech or like hate speech. Not protected. The opposite of being protected speech. How many times has Trudeau said the words melting pot or cultural mosaic, then turns around and like ethno-states are necessary? Yeah, I mean, this whole idea is belief as simple as that Jewish people have the right to determine their own future. Like, I want Jewish people to live in Montreal. You know what I mean? I want Jewish communities here and elsewhere around the world in the diaspora to just be at home there. Like, that's where Jewish people in Montreal, that's what their legacy is. It's here in this city. It's not in Israel. It has nothing to do with Israel. I don't want Jewish people to leave Montreal. I want them to stay right here. And I want them to stay in New York City and wherever else around the world that they live in these communities. You know? I thought we had like a melting pot. I thought we have multiculturalism. I thought that's what makes us strong. That's what we're always told. They should feel like their home is where they live, not some fascist hellhole somewhere else. That actually makes Jewish people there and everywhere around the world less safe by its continued existence. Anyway, I wanted to take some time to talk about this Trudeau speech. Were we saying Biden said something similar? We can talk more about now the invasion of Rafah or... Biden says something about Hamas's ancient desires, if you want to get a vibe on how bad it is. Man, I mean, this is the thing. It's not even about Israel, but it's about like the West and like Arabs. And you realize that there's this like this long-standing civilizational kind of clash that goes all the way back to the Crusades, you know? Biden's speech more unhinged than Trudeau. Okay, great. This old bastard. He's so old.
Thank you.
He's so fucking old.
Thank you, Zen. Please. Thank you, Stu Eisenstadt, for that introduction, for your leadership in the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. You're a true scholar and statesman and a dear friend. Speaker Johnson, Leader Jeffries, members of Congress, and especially the survivors of the Holocaust. My mother here, she'd look at you and say, God love you all. God love you all. Abe Foxman and all other survivors who embody absolute courage and dignity and grace are here as well. During these sacred days of remembrance, we grieve, we give voice to the 6 million Jews who were systematically targeted and murdered by the Nazis and their collaborators during World War II.
I'll be back in just a sec.
We honor the memory of victims, the pain of survivors, the bravery of heroes who stood up to Hitler's unspeakable evil, and we recommit to heading and heeding the lessons that one of the darkest chapters in human history, to revitalize and realize the responsibility of never again. Never again, simply translated for me, means never forget. Never forget. Never forgetting means we must keep telling the story. We must keep teaching the truth. We must keep teaching our children and our grandchildren. And the truth is, we're at risk of people not knowing the truth. That's why growing up, my dad taught me and my siblings about the horrors of the Shoah at our family dinner table. That's why I visited Yad Vashem with my family as a senator, as vice president, and as president. And that's why I took my grandchildren to Dachau, so they could see and bear witness to the perils of indifference, the complicity of silence in the face of evil that they knew was happening. Germany, 1933. Hitler and his Nazi party rise to power by rekindling one of the world's oldest forms of prejudice and hate, anti-Semitism. His rule didn't begin with mass murder. It started slowly across economic, political, social, and cultural life. Propaganda demonizing Jews, boycotts of Jewish businesses, synagogues defaced with swastikas, harassment of Jews in the street and in the schools, anti-Semitic demonstrations, pogroms, organized riots. With the indifference of the world, Hitler knew he could expand his reign of terror.
Hitler, who was supported by the entire American and Canadian ruling class, up until it became politically inconvenient to do so.
Jews from Germany to annihilate Jews across Europe through genocide, the Nazis called the final solution. Concentration camps, gas chambers, mass shootings. By the time the war ended, 6 million Jews, 1 out of every 3 Jews in the entire world, were murdered. This ancient hatred of Jews didn't begin with the Holocaust. It didn't end with the Holocaust either, or even after our victory in World War II. This hatred continues to lie deep in the hearts of too many people in the world, and requires our continued vigilance and outspokenness. That hatred was brought to life on October 7th in 2023. On a sacred Jewish holiday, the terrorist group Hamas unleashed the deadliest day of the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Driven by ancient desire to wipe out the Jewish people off the face of the earth, over 1,200 innocent people, babies, parents, grandparents, slaughtered in their kibbutz, massacred at a music festival, brutally raped, mutilated, and sexually assaulted. Thousands more.
It's never going to get dropped.
Bullets and shrapnel from the memory of that terrible day they endured.
Again, this whole effort to link October 7th with the Holocaust too is just on its face fucking disgusting also. Suggesting that it's some attack that was motivated by hatred, Jew hatred, or anti-Semitism, and not a response, whether you like it or not. And there's plenty you can not like about it, certainly. But a response to 70 years of occupation and colonization and exploitation and apartheid and murder, mass murder. So fucking gross. And then rattling off all the things that have already been like debunked and disproven. 1,200 people, as we know, is not even an accurate figure. It ignores the military casualties because it was a military occupation. Primarily that attacked IDF checkpoints outside of a concentration camp. Like that's a military campaign. And all this stuff like we've been talking about, the rapes, the mutilations, the burnings, all these things that were kind of like these narratives that were promoted in the days after, which there are so many questions about now. You know, and it's just still like there's no difference now. Biden repeated the whole like beheaded babies thing. There is no different now. He's still repeating aspects of this that have been totally debunked. So again, linking it to the Holocaust in and of itself is I think disgusting in and of itself. But then still repeating things that have been completely debunked over the last 7 months. 7 bases and dozens of surveillance towers smacked down in 30 minutes. They can't ever admit that happened. And like Kev, we watched the Al Jazeera documentary on October 7th, and I think there's lots of evidence that like horrible things happened after those military objectives. I don't think there's any denying that. Firing indiscriminately at these kibbutzes, civilians being killed, and like that's horrible. It's horrible when civilians are killed in any conflict. But suggesting that this was just this like hate attack on exclusively civilians is just not accurate. Not even discussing even mentioning how many of that number of people were killed through friendly fire and through tanks firing at these kibbutzes and Apache helicopters firing at cars at this music festival, which we now know beyond a shadow of a doubt happened. So that's always been the thing. Like, it's not even saying that like no civilians were killed by Hamas or whoever else on that day, but like, what's the actual number? Like, that's the thing that I would one day like to have an answer to. What's the actual number versus how many people were military casualties? The doc does a good job of getting into that. And how many were victims of this like Hannibal doctrine, this mass Hannibal doctrine that went into effect on that day, which there's overwhelming evidence of now. Overwhelming evidence. And all this stuff of like they have body cam footage of these Hamas guys. Like they have stuff filmed on that day. Zero evidence of any sexual assaults. Zero footage or images of anyone being burned, which was repeatedly talked about, burned and mutilated. And like a reporting that has been done about Hellfire missiles blowing up cars and burning people alive inside. And so they're taking all the damage that happened from that collateral damage. And once again, I'm not saying that that's entirely it, or that no civilians died on that day as a result of Hamas's actions. I'm not saying that. And you know what? I think it's absolutely horrifying when civilians are killed in any conflict, no matter the reason. But a lot of the most grotesque crimes that they're accusing Palestinians of on that day were committed by Israel. That's indisputable at this point. I'm sorry, it is. So it's sick to link the actions of October 7th to the Holocaust in the first place, and yet to the crimes of the Nazis versus the crimes of this group that's been colonized for the last 70 years and occupied, particularly people from Gaza, in 20 years, living in this open-air prison that they can't leave or escape from, that's periodically bombed, where Israel controls all the supplies and food that gets in and out. And suggesting they're the Nazis that were a powerful army, a powerful economy, and a powerful society that was backed by Western ruling classes at that time. Backed by powerful private interests from the United States. Versus a group of people that are making missiles and bombs and paragliders in their basements and their garages. No, yeah, he's calling us the new Nazis, though, Dan. Yeah, that's what they're saying about these like protests. That's what that whole segment on CNN was the other day. This is a climate, looking at these protesting college kids, many of whom are Jewish, looking at these protesting college kids and being like, this is like the climate of Germany in the 30s. That's what they're doing. They're linking, that's the new Nazis. It's sick. It's actually sick, especially considering Israel is the country that has acted like and behaved like Nazis, not only for the last 7 months, but over the last 70 years, which we all understand now. Let's not forget the literal Nazis in Ukraine that we fund. Yeah, of course. Well, when we applaud Nazis in Canadian Parliament that committed atrocities against Jewish populations. Oh, but that was just a big accident, though. So we're sorry. The real Nazis are the anti-genocide college kids. The real Nazis are people that say free Palestine from the river to the sea. We said we were sorry for the applauding Nazi thing. What do you want from us? Anyway, I think it's absolutely sick to link what happened on October 7th with like the crimes of the Nazis. I think it's absolutely sick and historically inaccurate. And also, there's still there. It's all the propaganda techniques that we have been debunked at this point. You know, talking about the things that happened on October 7th. Once again, I'm going to continue saying this, that I don't think nothing bad happened or that civilians didn't die. There's footage of it. There's footage of like Hamas guys after they kind of, I think, somewhat unexpectedly accomplished these military goals quite quickly. Yeah, there's footage of like indiscriminate firing at these kibbutzes. I don't doubt that civilians were killed, and I think it's horrible. But again, you're using this 1,200 figure, which is not accurate. Those IDF targets, military checkpoints, those are legitimate military targets in a military conflict. You know? Oppressed people, colonized people have the right under international law to fight back. As we've repeatedly heard about when it comes to Ukraine. No, Hamas had no helicopters on that day, and that's the whole thing. Mutilating, but so the whole sexual assault thing, we've gone into that in great detail. Zero evidence of that. Zero evidence. And if there was actual evidence, it would be in this Sheryl Sandberg documentary. We went over that scene by scene, line by line, along with that EI investigation. Zero evidence of that. And yeah, all the stuff about mutilated bodies, burned bodies, and not ever even, again, not even mentioning. No one in our media mentions the stuff about the friendly fire and the Hannibal Directive and all this stuff. No one talks about this. This is not even mentioned at all. And the idea that, they just burned and assaulted these people. And like we said, if there was images of Hamas people mutilating or burning people, they would have shown that. That would have been in their like propaganda. That would have been in their, they made the whole like Hamas documentary showing all the atrocities that happened. And there's not one frame of footage of that I know of. So still just 7 months later, repeating all this stuff as if it's factual, when the vast majority of the claims that he's making about what happened that day are, at the very least, very generously, are much more nuanced than the way he's making it out to be. God, I'm like really flirting with some... I'm in some thorny territory this entire day, but it's like, this is what we need to talk about this stuff. I'm sorry. Like, we need to talk about it.
Hundreds taken hostage, including survivors of the Shoah. Now, here we are, not 75 years later, but just 7.5 months later, and people are already forgetting. We're already forgetting.
God, do we have to watch another 10 minutes of this?
Terror. It was Hamas that brutalized Israelis. It was Hamas who took and continues to hold hostages. I have not forgotten, nor have you, and we will not forget.
This old bastard. He's so old.
And as Jews around the world still cope with the atrocities and trauma of that day and its aftermath, we've seen a ferocious surge of anti-Semitism in America and around the world.
This is so fucked up,
Vicious propaganda on social media.
This is so fucked up. God, it's like it's so just designed to make you feel insane because it's a total inversion of reality. And again, we're talking about the vicious anti-Semitism and the way Jews are unsafe, and ignoring the role, as we've talked about many, many times, that Jews are playing in this protest movement against Israel and in support of Palestinians.
Jews forced to keep their hide, their keepers under baseball hats, tuck their Jewish stars into their shirts. On college campuses, Jewish students blocked, harassed, attacked while walking to class.
I've been seeing plenty of Jewish students getting attacked by jackbooted thugs under the purview of the Joe Brandon administration. I've seen a number of images of Jewish students, not just Jewish students, but Jewish professors of Jewish studies being manhandled by armed police, riot cops. Did he mean necklaces? He's talking about like Star of David necklaces. And like, you can find a lot, if not every single one of these incidences of like Jews being blocked from going to classes or Jews being harassed or threatened. These are all like Israel supporting provocateurs. You know, these are not just like, oh, I'm being discriminated against because of my religion. These are people that have specific ties to this ideology, that are they're playing a role to promote this narrative. Yeah, Jews got stabbed in the eye by a flag, exactly. But the cops beating and arresting Jewish people is actually fighting anti-Semitism, you see. Like, this is how totally backwards this is. This is making me feel so insane. It's like I've been saying, it's like a total inversion of reality. It's not just a little bit of, it's not just some fake news. It's not a distortion. It's not the average lies. It's a completely 100% inverted version of reality, a fake version of reality that they're trying to pull us all back into. Joe Biden and powerful people. And that none of us believe anymore. None of us this does not work on any of us anymore. And they're still talking about this version of reality that just doesn't exist, this completely inverted version of reality.
Anti-Semitic posters, slogans, calling for the annihilation of Israel, the world's only Jewish state. Too many people denying, downplaying, rationalizing, ignoring the horrors of the Holocaust. And October 7th, including Hamas's appalling use of sexual violence to torture and terrorize Jews. It's absolutely despicable, and it must stop. Silence.
God, it's so fucked up the way that they keep saying this stuff. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it gets debunked. Like, that's ultimately what it comes down to. You can debunk it. You can spend all day going through line by line and debunking every single accusation and every single thing. Like, you can do that. But like, it doesn't matter. They'll just keep saying it. They just keep saying it. And for a lot of people, that's just a basic fact, you know? You might as well keep talking about the 40 dead babies, for sure. You might as well. Who cares whether it's been debunked and disproven?
Silence and denial can hide much, but it can erase nothing. Some injustices are so heinous, so horrific, so grievous, they cannot be buried, no matter how hard people
use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Oh, sorry, you got censored, Joe. Disgusting fuck. I have no respect for anyone who's shameless enough to ask voters to vote for this sicko. Thanks for the coverage. Thank you, Joe, for the 200 bits.
Try. In my view, a major lesson of the Holocaust is, as mentioned earlier, was not inevitable. We know hate never goes away, it only hides. And given a little oxygen, it comes out from under the rocks. We also know what stops hate. One thing.
This whole idea that supporting Palestine means is some kind of hate speech is just so fucked.
As a virus that have survived and mutated over time. Together, we cannot
Yeah, I agree,
continue
human
to let
person.
that happen. We have to remember
There's a sinister undercurrent to all this kind of rhetoric.
We have an obligation. We have an obligation to learn the lessons of history so we don't surrender our future to the horrors of the past. We must give hate no safe harbor against anyone. Anyone. From the very founding,
Except
our very
anti-Arab
founding,
hate.
Jewish
That's totally fine.
Americans,
Islamophobia.
representative of only about 2% of the U.S. population, have helped lead the cause of freedom for everyone in our nation. From that experience, we know scapegoating and demonizing any minority is a threat to every minority and the very foundation of our democracy.
But yet, when we take pro-Palestine activists and we basically call them Nazis, we don't think that's like creating a division. We don't think that's scapegoating and demonizing. When we take movements that are largely built by and upheld by Arabs and we suggest that they're Jew-hating terrorist sympathizers, we don't think that makes Arabs and Muslims less safe in our society. We don't think that's scapegoating and demonizing people. When we take college kids that are against genocide, that watch 7 months of nonstop crimes playing out on their phones, and we call them Nazis, we don't think that's scapegoating and demonizing anybody. We seem to only really be against this kind of hate and scapegoating and demonizing when it threatens the ongoing ability of this like U.S.-backed ethno-state attack dog in the Middle East that ultimately is there to uphold the petrodollar. It seems like that's when we care about hate and scapegoating and demonization, whenever that is threatened or even questioned in any way.
So in moments like this, we have to put these principles that we're talking about into action. I understand people have strong beliefs and deep convictions about the world. In America, we respect and protect the fundamental right to free speech.
Big butt coming.
To debate and disagree.
Big butt coming.
To protest peacefully.
Seems like there's an asterisk.
Make our voices heard.
There's an asterisk on the horizon.
I understand.
There's a caveat.
That's America. But there is no place on any campus in America, any place in America, for anti-Semitism or hate speech or threats of violence of any kind.
Good thing that that's not happening. Looks like we're okay then.
Whether against Jews or anyone else, violent attacks, destroying property is not peaceful protest. It's against the law. And we are not a lawless country. We're a civil society. We uphold the rule of law. And no one should have to hide or be brave just to be themselves.
Report true as gun.
To the Jewish community, I want you to know, I see your fear, your hurt, and your pain.
If you support Israel.
Let me reassure you, as your president, you're not alone.
If you support Israel, I see your fear and your hurt and your pain.
You always have and you always will. And
if you support Palestine, I don't give a shit about you.
The security of Israel and its right to exist as an independent Jewish state is ironclad, even when we disagree. My administration is working around the clock to free remaining hostages.
This is so infuriating. They just turned down a peace deal yesterday.
And will not rest until we bring them all home.
They've been turning down ceasefire deals now for 7 months. The first one was offered on like October 10th. They could have had all the hostages home October 10th. And they're still doing it now. They're still doing it now because they wanted to go and continue massacring civilians in Rafah. They care more about massacring civilians in Rafah than getting back these hostages that they claim to care about.
My administration, with our second gentleman's leadership, has launched our nation's first national strategy to counter anti-Semitism that's mobilizing the full force of the federal government to protect Jewish communities.
There you go, anus beer. Look under the rubble, you'll find some of the hostages there.
Or Jews alone. That's why I'm calling on all Americans to stand united against anti-Semitism and hate in all its forms.
And we'll beat the shit out of any Jewish person that disagrees.
The late Elie Wiesel said, quote,
we'll arrest any Jewish person that disagrees for their own safety.
We have to remember that, now more than ever. Here in Emancipation Hall, the U.S. Capitol, among the towering statues of history, is a bronze bust of Raoul Wallenberg. Born in Sweden as a Lutheran, he was a businessman and a diplomat. While stationed in Hungary during World War II, he used diplomatic cover to hide and rescue about 100,000 Jews over a 6-month period. Among them was a 16-year-old Jewish boy who escaped a Nazi labor camp. After the war ended, that boy received a scholarship from the Hillel Foundation to study in America. He came to New York City penniless, but determined to turn his pain into purpose, along with his wife, also a Holocaust survivor. He became a renowned economist and foreign policy thinker, eventually making his way to this very Capitol on the staff of a first-term senator. That Jewish refugee was Tom Lantos.
Count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob.
And that senator was me.
Thank you, Lodane, for gifting a sub to our friend Anus Beard.
Tom and his wife Annette and their family became dear friends to me and my family. Tom would go on to become the only Holocaust survivor ever elected to Congress, where he became a leading voice on civil rights and human rights around the world.
I know, we saw.
Tom never met Raoul, who was taken prisoner by the Soviets, never to be heard from again. But through Tom's efforts, Raoul's bust is here in the Capitol. He was also given honorary U.S. citizenship, only the second person ever after Winston Churchill. The Holocaust Museum here in Washington is located in a road in Raoul's name.
He's so fucking old, dude.
The story of the power of a single person to put aside our differences, to see our common humanity, to stand up to hate, and its ancient story of resilience from immense pain, persecution, to find hope, purpose, and meaning in life. We try to live and share with one another. That story endures. Let me close with this. I know these days of remembrance fall on difficult times. We all do well to remember. These days also fall during the month we celebrate Jewish American heritage. A heritage that stretches from our earliest days to enrich every single part of American life today. Great American, great Jewish American.
They're pumping him full of all kinds of stuff
used
here.
The phrase,
Chad.
The veneer of civilization is paper thin. We are its guardians, and we can never rest.
Glad to hear it, Genki.
My fellow Americans, we must be those guardians. We must never rest. We must rise against hate, meet across the divide, see our common humanity, and God bless the victims and survivors of Shoah. May the resilient hearts, the courageous spirit, and the eternal flame of faith of the Jewish people forever shine their light on America and around the world. Pray God. Thank you all.
God, that was just fucking enraging. That was absolutely enraging on every level. Just a disgusting, decrepit, sick son of a bitch. And yeah, I think some sinister undertones to some of this rhetoric that we're seeing from both Biden and Trudeau about the possibility that they may actually make some attempt to criminalize the very things that we've talked about on this program for the last 7 months. I don't know. There's a pretty good chance we get to see this old man croak on live TV. I don't want to repeat these slurs that Twitch has banned people for, Old Dutch. So shame on you for using that kind of language. I would never call Joe Biden a cracker, and I hope no one should. I hope everyone agrees with that. That's an unfortunate and terrible thing to say. I wouldn't say it, and I hope you don't either. But yeah, this man will be dead soon, though. And that's not like a threat, obviously, or anything. That's just an observation. He's just incredibly old. He looks like he's on his last legs. He looks and sounds absolutely terrible. This idea that this man is going to like campaign over the next like 6 months in a presidential campaign, like physically, mentally, I don't know how that's going to be possible. It's interesting that this is the Israeli remembrance of the Holocaust, not the international one. Yeah, it is interesting. And like I think we talked about it earlier, Regime Pilled, but the way Zionists and Israelis talk about Holocaust victims, I think there's nothing more disgraceful to their memory than that. Talking about them as if they were weak. We're not weak like they were. We're strong. You know? I think that's really fucked up. And using the pain and trauma of the Holocaust and weaponizing that and justifying your own fascism, your own Nazism. I think there's nothing more disgusting than that. Nothing more disgusting and disgraceful than that. Anyway, it will be interesting if they really do try to like make some kind of play to criminalize this kind of speech. Like I know this has already passed the House, this kind of thing, like enshrining anti-Israel speech as like a form of hate speech. It seems like, according to what Trudeau is saying, that we might be following suit. I will be interested to see what's going to happen if they actually do this. So I don't think it's going to cause anyone to actually stop saying this stuff. Chad, I believe cracker is a reference to like slavery. It's like a reference to like white people's role in slavery, the slave trade. Oh, absolutely sick. I did want to watch Justin Potter's sit reps. I don't think I have enough time though now. It's an hour long. Justin and John Elmer. I would have liked to talk about this Rafah invasion. Man, that was really enraging. That whole thing was just incredibly enraging. I really hate this fucking guy. I really do. And here's Kamala. I wonder if Kamala Harris will have any kind of a counterpoint to that. Let's hear what she has to say.
Madam Vice President, Hamas says it accepted a ceasefire deal. Hamas says accepted a ceasefire deal. Your reaction?
What are your thoughts on Hamas accepting a ceasefire deal?
Shrimp and grits, she said.
Madam Vice President, Hamas says it accepted a ceasefire deal.
Shrimp and grits. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mamala. Thank you. Mamala. Shrimp and grits. Well, this has been a day of like productive discussion. I feel like a little bit anxious, a little bit talking about some of these issues. But we have to talk about it. You know, even if it does make us uncomfortable. I think the way this narrative has been manipulated, it makes it uncomfortable to talk about, and that encourages people to be silent. Yeah, that's what I was referring to. Fab Forward, the Drew Barrymore clip thing. We all need Mamala right now. It's fun. I mean, she thinks she doesn't exist in the context of all which she lives or something. That's the funny thing about that quote. Is like you could apply that quote. Did you just fall out a coconut tree? No, you exist in the context of everything that came before. Why don't you apply that kind of ethos to October 7th? Did October 7th just happen in a vacuum? Or was there a larger context that contributed to that of everything that came before? Did October 7th just fall out of a coconut tree? Or does it exist in the context of everything that came before it? It seems like they don't want to apply that logic when it comes to that. It doesn't want to apply that logic when it comes to Ukraine as well. I think she should apply that kind of philosophy, that kind of ethos to these kinds of issues. Hamas commandos parasailed out of coconut trees. They were hiding in the coconut trees and they just fell right out of there. Well, I do have to get going somewhat soon, folks. Not right away, but in a little bit. As you know, the only way I'm able to keep doing this show and talk about these issues for as long as I'm allowed to continue doing that, the only way that I'm able to continue to do that is through the extreme generosity of this community. Trying to hit those targets each and every day if possible, because as you know, I must make this little number at the bottom of the screen go up every day. It's just the economic reality of doing this show here on Twitch. You know what? I would love to go on and talk about some of the things we've talked about today.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
I'm back, baby.
Anus Beard, we love it. One of the, maybe I think the original valued community member. Anus Beard, I don't know if you realize how central you are to the lore
you can count
of this
on
program.
And have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you for the 200 bits, though. I really appreciate it. I'm happy that you're in the chat again. And thanks, Baldwin, for the 2 gifted subs as well. Thank you, Baldwin. As I was saying, you know, like I would be happy to go on our mainstream media in Canada on CBC or Global News or CTV or I would love to write about this in the Globe and Mail or the National Post or whatever it is
to talk you through all this.
Baldwin, thanks for the 15 months of Prime as well. Thank you, Baldwin. You know, I would love to do that, but because of the things that I have to say are so fucking out of bounds from our allowed discourse spectrum, because the things that I say are so far beyond what's allowed, what we're allowed to say about this subject in our mainstream media, I am not able to do that. Even though I've got a larger platform online than I would say most journalists in this country. You would think just on that level, I might have the ability to start weighing in on these issues on a mainstream level, but I don't, because like one of the things that I have to say are basically just not allowed. They're not allowed to be part of our discourse. The only way that I'm able to talk about this stuff, for now, is if I log on here on twitch.tv to talk about it. So if you want to support that, if you want to support the work that I do on here, talking about these issues each and every day, I would like to think that, you know, this coverage and this commentary, this analysis, this discourse has been helpful to some people in this community. It's certainly been very helpful to me. If you want to support that, you want to support the community, please subscribe if you can. I'm 20 subs away from the goal. Having an increasingly difficult time lately getting to those goals. So if you can, please support the work that I do on here.
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam, for the 5 gifted subs. I really appreciate that.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And thank you, Mask Loves You, for the gifted sub.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And thank you, Pork Tree, as well, for continuing your Prime gift to tier 1. Thank you, Pork Tree. I appreciate it. Very cool. The alert is fixed. Is it? I don't know. It's crazy when you put it like that. I know it's crazy. I know. You would think that maybe someone would like reach out to me to weigh in on some of these things. Why not? I thought we have free speech in this country. Like, that's kind of what I wondered. Like, I could talk about these things in our mainstream media. They don't have to agree. They might think it's abhorrent or it's horrible. It would get clicks. It would get people to click on their news programs. Where are these invites? Why don't I get to weigh in on this? Like, I thought that's what free speech was. Free speech, even things that we don't disagree with, especially things we don't disagree with. If you ask a lot of these liberals about free speech and what it means allowing viewpoints to be articulated and spoken about, even when it's upsetting, even when we disagree. But it seems like we don't actually live in a society that values that at all.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
FML, there's new hype train emotes. Thank you, Lodane, for the 100 bits. And yeah, there is new hype train emotes as well. We got a hype train going. 14 subs away from the goal. We could get up to higher in this hype train. We could get some, in addition to supporting the work that I do on here and joining the community and getting all the amazing emotes in this community, which has some of the very best tiny little images on this entire platform. We can also get access to very cool and exclusive new hype train emotes from Twitch as well. 14 subs to go. Does anyone else want to please support this program?
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
The very best tiny images on this entire platform.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
People are they're coming up to me, they're saying Rob, the tiny images are they're beautiful.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Risk Inverse, thank you so much for the 3 gifted subs as well. Thank you, Risk Inverse.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
The biggest guys come up to me with tears in their eyes.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
I still don't have it. I think I was closer the other week, and then I've lost it again. Radicalize Me, thanks for the gifted sub as well. Very first gifted sub in the channel from Radicalize Me. Thank you, Radicalize Me. I appreciate it. 90% of the way through level 3 of this hype train, folks. That's one more gifted sub, I think, would do it. One more gifted sub would do it, and only 10 subs away. So really, a real brave hero could step up and get all the way to the sub goal and annihilate this hype train right now. You know? That would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool if that happened. And it would trigger the very cool 10 gift sub alert as well. We got one more sub or gifted sub would get to level 4.
You can count on
my
me.
goodness.
You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you
It's
through
going
all
to
this.
do every single one. It's going to do every single
You can
one.
count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Let's do all 11, actually.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through
Why
all
are the
this.
alerts doing this? I don't know.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through
Let's
all
hear
this.
every single one. Why not?
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
The interlude is us waiting for the alerts to finish.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
You
can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this. It's in chorus. You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this. You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this. Let's hear some more. Why not?
Wow. Okay, Rob. Seriously, wow.
That was good, Baldwin. You nailed that. You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this. I'd feel more confident if Rob had a White Claw in his hand. Maybe we're getting into the summer. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this. I could start blasting some claws on the stream if that's what you want. You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob. Please no more. Like, I really appreciate the subs, but this is so many. In a row. It is BL. I haven't had a BLL in a while. His hand is already a White Claw. Oh my gosh. Anyway, Dakadoon, thank you so much for 10 gifted subs. I really appreciate that, Dakadoon. Thank you for that. That's really generous, and I really appreciate it. Thank you, Bon for the gifted sub. Thank you, Perfect Speller, for the gifted sub, and thank you, Barbara Loden, for the gifted sub as well. Really appreciate that, folks. Thank you. We are still going in this hype train. We got to the goal. That's really wonderful, and I love that. You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this. Chaos the Gardener, thanks for the 2 gifted subs. You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this. Thank you, Chaos the Gardener. Very cool. Very cool. This community is so incredibly supportive, and it means so much to me, folks. It really does. Never want to come across like I don't appreciate that or that I take that for granted in any way. I do not. It's a huge it's such a blessing for me that I have this platform and I have the ability to talk about this stuff on this show. Would not be able to do it without this incredible community. And I want to make sure you all understand that how much I appreciate that, please. Theoretically, there's 10 gifted subs away from a song, but I think it's okay. I don't think we need to fuck around with that today. To talk you through all this. Risk Inverse, thanks for another gifted sub as well. I think we're good now, though. You know, we're 69% of the way through level 5 of this hype train. 41 subs, that's wonderful. I think we're good to stop now. I think we're all right. These hype train emotes are really good, though. I mean, I think we would just have to get to level 6, right, to get all of them. Is that correct? Song, yes, Mask loves you. Sometimes, when I do get to 50 subs, on the rare occasion when I get 50 subs in one day, I do sing a little song. So... But we're good, though, I think. I think it's fine. I don't think we need to worry about that. Do I still do impressions? Well, I mean, you heard me do that pitch perfect Trump just a few moments ago, Anus Beard, so... Clearly, I still do. Yeah, you all, and maybe some of you thought that was actually Donald Trump speaking, but that was me. That was actually me doing that. Now I'm worried about it. You shouldn't be worried. People seem to like my singing voice. You know, I have a nice singing voice. Trying to leave before he gets to 50. It's like, I'm never going to complain about hitting higher numbers of subs. I mean, that's fantastic. I genuinely don't feel like singing though. Like I genuinely would rather not do that. So. But thank you everyone for supporting this program, and thanks for tuning in today. This was some valuable discussion. Like I said, I feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about some of this stuff sometimes, but we got to talk about it, you know? Rob's Alex Jones impression is the best in the business. That is genuinely good. I sometimes joke around about how good my impressions are when in a kind of a sarcastic way because of how bad they are. My Alex Jones is good. That's genuinely good, though, I think. In my opinion. In my opinion. Thank you again, friends, for tuning in today. If SNL were a real show, Communist Alex Jones would have a regular spot. Yeah, and Weekend Update, for sure. That'd be great. The Trump could use a little polish, but it'll be great. It's just you get the loud, and then you go to the soft. You have to, there's like a, quite frankly, you know, but you said like the subject. It's the very best chat. Quite frankly, it's the best chat we've ever had. It's tremendous. More and more people are saying it's a terrible deal. It's a terrible deal. Like, it's not just the voice, but it's having the stream of consciousness as well. You have to have the, like, stream of consciousness going from, like, topic to topic and making the little digressions and all that. That's a whole, like, that's a whole different aspect to it.